GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And with that, we welcome you to Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This here is episode 154.
Episode 154, Buffalo Bills versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, my babies.
For John Cimino, you hear him. I'm Ryan Wolfe. We're talking again, as John said, the Buffalo Bills versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can hear us on BetterLiveThanDead.com, GearNetwork.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date on the latest podcast. John, before we jump in, again, because of the timing of the podcast, flowers where they are deserved. James Cook was named the AFC Offensive Player of the Week for his performance against the Miami Dolphins. Second time in his career he has earned that honor. And rolling off of that victory on Thursday Night Football into a long off week and finishing off with Monday Night Football, John, we're coining this one the Monday Night Beatdown. Buffalo.
Dude, it was unbelievable. Like,
I try to find words that aren't always the same, because like saying, well, the Bills defeated blah blah blah, the Bills won blah blah. Buffalo decimated the Jaguars.
Oh yeah, 100, absolutely. That may not even be the most accurate word of what they did there, but that's certainly a good word to say, because it was if you were a Jags fan, it was rough for you.
It was a good old-fashioned beat him down, and I've got the stats to back it up, as always, John. 31-point halftime lead for the Buffalo Bills equals the third largest halftime lead in franchise history, and the largest the Buffalo Bills have had at halftime since November 22nd, 1992 versus Atlanta. Mind
during
you,
the golden years, man.
I'm not doing this to make you feel old, John. I'm more or less just using this for perspective. I will be 33 next week. I was too when the Bills had their last largest halftime lead.
You know what? That's Jesus, man. I would have been.
No, actually, sorry. I was one, because I was born in 91. Yeah, so I was one. Just turned one.
Okay, so November 22nd, 1992. I was 2 weeks before my 12th birthday. There, it's funny. It's funny. When you say things like that, it makes me feel old. Nothing makes me feel older than knowing that a month before that, shy a day, my girlfriend was born.
Well, when you put it that way, John.
Yeah.
Why don't you have a seat right over there?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much, Chris. We met 3 years ago. But still, when I see those dates, I remember that era of Bills football very vividly. It was in my early teen years, and memory obviously is long established at that point. And I remember seeing these games, and I remember this era of Buffalo Bills football. So anytime that you can put into that historical context that I actually lived through, so many times you hear, oh, well, ever since the stat was recorded in 1965 or the team of 1977, it's like you hear about these teams, right? Like, I lived through these Bills teams. So when I see these numbers that this current Bills squad puts up in comparison to those, which was the holy grail of the Bills Mafia era back then in those days, like, to me, that's like, wow. It's mind-blowing, because very rarely do you get to see something like that, once as a fan of a team, let alone twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I think that's pretty cool. And then, of course, when you put the old perspective on it, it's like, fuck you, Ryan.
I don't try to do that. It just happens naturally.
The
first half versus Jacksonville marks the first time Buffalo scored 5 touchdowns on 5 straight drives at any point in a game since the last 5 drives of a game versus then Oakland on September 18th, 2011.
How old were you then?
I'm kidding. 13 years ago, I was 20.
20. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Right.
The fourth largest margin of victory.
It was around the time you used
history.
to drop jerseys off to me at my house.
Yeah.
You remember that? Used to be in the jersey business.
Yeah. I got a dark and checkered past.
Yes, you do.
37 points, John, the fourth largest.
We won't even talk about your time as a referee.
Oh, good Lord. Hey, don't disparage the Pistol Pete name. Okay?
Pistol Pete. Need him to ref one more match before I go.
Oh, God.
We can talk about that off air.
6 different players recorded an offensive touchdown for the third time in team history, and Buffalo's point differential improves to plus 64, the second best mark in team history through 3 weeks. So, again,
unbelievable. Just
this team,
they came. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, because I know the optic of the offseason was that this was going to be an off year for Buffalo. They've done everything but make it an off year for them. Like, they're producing at record numbers. They're whatever, perhaps maybe it was that feedback of this is probably going to be an off year for them. Maybe that's the chip on their shoulder this season that they walked into, because this does not look like a team that has been depleted in any area at all, at least to me.
It to me, in what I'll actually do here is an executive decision. I'm going to jump into the 3 big things, and I'm going to respond to your statement there, just so we don't get too far off the beaten path here. But John, hockey's right around the corner. Our 3 big things brought to you by puckluck.com, your one-stop resource for all your National Hockey League sports betting action. Puckluck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every National Hockey League game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Not to worry. Puckluck also provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Please note, puckluck.com, no way affiliated with the National Hockey League. Its teams are the NHLPA. Puckluck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any related or suggested or related wagers. As always, please gamble responsibly. Also, puckluck.com, if you follow the man behind Puckluck, he is now a credentialed journalist for the Buffalo Sabres. So you'll be seeing a lot of good Sabres news out of him on Twitter as well, which is fantastic. But John,
very cool.
To answer your question.
Yes. I already forgot what I asked.
The Buffalo Bills, optically, yes, it's a rebuild because they're eating money to send Stephon Diggs away. They're not going out to replace him with a big name. Although Curtis Samuel's a big name, it's not Stephon Diggs big. But it seems like, if anything, we always hear that cliche of, we want people who want to play here, who want to be a Buffalo Bill, who want to be a part of something great. And it seems like the team this year is full of guys who want to be a part of the team, of the region, of everything that is Buffalo Bills football.
That's very fair.
Because again, this team is not going to go undefeated. There will be trials and tribulations, but
I'm sure, but I think
through 3 weeks,
people were very quick to write them off as perhaps not being the division winner.
Sure. Well, I mean, you look at it because every year, I mean, we talk about this to kind of go a little BLTD here for a minute. You always expect teams to progress. And when Buffalo has won the division for 4 straight years, you say, okay, well, what more can they do? Just win the Super Bowl. Okay.
Sure.
So if Miami has another year of being better, they'll probably be harder. If the Jets get Aaron Rodgers back, they'll be more difficult to play against. The Patriots with Jacoby Brissett, maybe they'll be better and harder to play against. As we've learned through 3 weeks, I don't know how true any of those statements are, and the Bills may very well be on the path to a 5th straight division title.
It could
just based off could be, yeah. Just based off what we've seen. I mean, look, we're almost at the quarter mark of the season already. It's October next week. Like things are developing fast and furious, if you will.
Absolutely, but, yes. And again, you know what? They're playing with a level of urgency, as you can see from these first 3 weeks. The Bills, they missed the memo that they're going to be.
They're marching to the beat of their own drum, which they've always done.
Exactly. Like even it's too early to say, and I hate if the season ended today talk, but they're in control of their destiny right now. Obviously, do I think they're going to be a team that will go undefeated? No, I do have them split. I stand by. I have them splitting again. Maybe not splitting against Miami anymore, but I have them splitting against the Jets. I have them losing a certain number of games that to teams that are of the upper echelon, that contend on particularly on the NFC side. And I don't see anything that, and have not seen anything that rings bells of concern. If I were, a Homer Bills fan, like, I'd be okay.
I mean, looking at it right now, they're not just beating teams that they should beat; they're beating teams that they should beat handily.
Absolutely.
They started off slow against the Cardinals, came back strong, handled the Dolphins more than handled the Jaguars. I mean, it's
and it's funny because
coming up, Baltimore's going to be a big test, but again,
they're not. But the Baltimore Ravens are not the Baltimore Ravens.
We'll talk about that.
Year,
Yeah,
we'll get there. But I think going back to the Jacksonville Jaguar situation, this was a year that the Cons really put out there that, hey, we're putting our stamp on there. We're talking like, quite frankly, the New York Jets have been talking for the last 13 years, right? Where we're the talk of the town. We're ready to win. We're focused. We're doing this. And then to go out there and lay that kind of egg. I get the Buffalo Bills are good, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are also a professional football team. And they just looked overmatched in every area possible, in particular coaching.
Yeah, I was going to
say sharp.
The one thing that was brought up on multiple football podcasts that I was listening to this week, because normally, sorry, I got to turn my heater on down here. It's a little chilly in my office.
Boy.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have looked like they were improving,
right?
And then they pay Trevor Lawrence, which again, I mean, you got to pay to play. We know how the NFL works these days. You're not going to get away with nickel and diming your way to have if you have a decent above average quarterback, at least above average quarterback, you got to pay him.
I feel like they paid Trevor Lawrence because they know that, he could have gone. Trevor Lawrence probably could go to another system and do very well. I mean, I hate to say Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold looked good when he was in the Carolina Panthers system for a little bit, and then remembered he was Sam Darnold. But he's off to a fantastic start in Minnesota, and maybe he found the system that works for him, and his positives are being accentuated. I don't think Jacksonville's doing Trevor Lawrence any favors.
No, and I think the one thing that we look at too, John, just to jump in there really quick, is you mentioned coaching looked poor, and yeah. I mean, a lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are mentioning that. Hey, look at it's kind of funny that Trevor Lawrence looks like Carson Wentz did when
Doug Peterson.
Sorry, I just got a text message when Doug Peterson was coaching him, and that's. I mean, the stats. Trevor Lawrence looks better than Daniel Jones on the football field, but their stats are almost exactly the same. Like, I get that you have to pay Trevor Lawrence because he's the best quarterback the Jaguars have had since Byron Leftwich. I mean, not to disparage the good name of Gardner Minshew, but like talent wise, he's probably arguably the best that they've ever had, depending on how high you feel about Mark Brunell, which that's a different conversation for a different day. But
I would say, yeah.
Byron when you pay Mark Brunell. We talked about this past couple years ago.
David Garrard was pretty good too.
I forgot about him.
Mm-hmm.
Dudes could there's that meme that says dudes could just sit around and talk and just name old players for hours.
Right.
That's true. That's very true. Because you said David Garrard, and the first name that popped up in my head for some reason was Bubby Brister. That's.
Oh my goodness, Bubby Brister! I remember that. Yeah, we're doing that. We're doing that exactly.
Yep. Yeah, we got to stop. We're going to be here all day. Not a problem with that, but we'll be here all day. But looking at Jacksonville, we talked about this with the Bills when the Bills were struggling with Sean McDermott, and we're like, okay. I mean, not that the Bills would ever talk about getting rid of Josh Allen, but when you pay the quarterback, it's his team. You paid Trevor Lawrence. You're not getting rid of Trevor Lawrence. You're getting rid of Doug Peterson. And right now, it looks like no one wants to be there.
At Jacksonville? Oh no, absolutely
in Jackson,
not.
It's all. I mean, again. I think they brought in help. They brought in help for Trevor Lawrence. Evan Ingram is injured. I understand that, but when one player goes down, your team should not be completely useless. And
right.
It's the decisions that Lawrence was making in the pocket. Yeah. He's seeing ghosts. He had a spin move where he, for no reason, spun around and then went for a bootleg and got completely nuked. Like, when you hit too many buttons on Madden and you're trying to, you're running and all of a sudden you just jump for no reason. That's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
And it just is he's seeing ghosts. I mean, he's got the talent there. We've seen it before.
Right.
But you got to have coaching, much like you mentioned Sam Darnold in Minnesota. Talent can only take you so far. You have to have somebody who can unlock that talent. And it does not seem like Doug Peterson's that guy.
Yeah, I'm catching that vibe again. Early in the season for Jacksonville, they could turn it around, right? And
The AFC is pretty weak, aside from Houston, but they started off slow too. So,
but if they're going to turn it around, they need to look at this game. They need to watch this game, and they need to remember what's being said about them, because as it's easy to be armchair QB here, armchair analyst, and say this, that, and the other thing. But the bottom line is that it's a professional football team, one of 32, and they played like that.
Yeah, they put that on film.
It's just not good. Like, no. The game was over by the first quarter.
Yeah,
it really was. And we had our Trust the Podcast chat going on there. And I was like, all right, well, I'm on to, whatever it was, whatever humorous thing I posted on there, given my state of mind at the time. It just, like, ratings wise, like, I mean, you even saw there was videos of even the Bills players that were singing along to a song because presumably they were bored, and folks that were there were having a good time.
Oh, no, man, they were vibing. They were straight up vibing. Yeah.
Like
that's the crazy thing about it too, is that Highmark Stadium was so freaking loud.
Yeah.
And like you could catch it on TV, and there were people on Twitter who have not been to Bills games saying like, oh, hey man, I see ESPN's piping in sound to make it sound louder again. And then people were responding with videos and they're like, no, it's just really, really goddamn loud here.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope the acoustics follow to the new stadium.
Well, they got the roof that goes over the seats. So you best believe it's going to be like Seattle in there, where it's just your bones will be rattling. It'll be so loud. But
nice.
Wrapping up the offense here very quickly, because again, there is not a whole lot to talk about. But then again, there kind of is. It's just splitting hairs here, because again, the game was over by the half.
Yeah, I'd say just run through them.
Quarterback Josh Allen, 23 for 30, 263 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns with 6 carries for 44 yards. 7th time in his career that Allen has thrown 3+ touchdowns in a first half. 4 touchdown passes before the half ties a career high, which he also achieved against Pittsburgh on October 9th, 2022. Allen became the first player with 200+ passing yards and 4+ passing touchdowns in a first half since he accomplished the same feat again in that game versus Pittsburgh that was mentioned before. The last non-Josh Allen player to accomplish his feat was Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott, who did it at Philadelphia on January 8th, 2022. Josh Allen is the first quarterback in NFL history to complete 75% of his passes, throw over 4+ touchdowns, have no turnovers, take no sacks, and lead his team in rushing yards all in the same game. He ties Patrick Mahomes for the fastest to reach 25 total touchdowns on Monday Night Football, which happened in 9 games. Allen was also named the AFC Offensive Player of the Week on Wednesday for the 13th time in his career. So again, a stand-up performance from old 17 under center.
Indeed. And, QB1 doing QB1 things, and that's why they pay him the big bucks.
Absolutely. Running back James Cook, 11 carries for 49 yards with 4 receptions on 5 targets for 48 yards. I don't know that my stats were correct. I'll have to double check that really quickly. But also,
you just keep reading on. I'll check for it.
I was going to say everybody eats again. That's the big thing, because looking at the offense, it's unbelievable to me. James Cook had 11 for 39. I don't know why I put 49. He had 11 carries for 39 yards. I apologize for that. 10 different players recorded a reception on Monday night, John.
You probably looked at his receiving total.
Yeah, the 10th time in team history, Buffalo's recorded 10 different players with a reception in a game. It's the first time Buffalo has done this since September 25th, 2022 at Miami, when a team record 11 different players caught a pass.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills lead the NFL with 6 different players having caught a touchdown this season. And the standout, I know we're going to run down a couple quick things here fast, but the standout among the group, wide receiver Khalil Shakir. He finished last year strong. He started this year very strong. 6 receptions on 6 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown. Khalil Shakir has 27 straight receptions on 27 straight targets in the regular season dating back to last year, week 16 of the 2023 season at the Chargers. He's got 14 on 14 this year, Finished last year 2023 season 13 of 13. Per Next Gen Stats, Shakir is third in the NFL with 4.5 yards of separation at the time of a pass. So not only does he catch everything that gets thrown to him, but also at the same time, he's finding ways to get himself open, which is something that Bills wide receivers have struggled with in the past. So to see Khalil Shakir's growth and development happen right before our eyes is a very big win for this Buffalo Bills offense.
Absolutely. And onwards and upwards from here with that.
It just keeps that train chugging down the track. Same thing with guys like tight end Dalton Kincaid, 3 receptions on 5 targets for 41 yards and a touchdown. It's his first touchdown of the season. Running back Ty Johnson had 3 rushes for 18 yards with 3 receptions on 3 targets for 28 yards and a touchdown. And Keon Coleman also joined the party. 1 reception on 1 target for 24 yards and a touchdown. It's his first career touchdown. He was benched in the first quarter. But things were going so good that it was hard to even recognize that he was benched. But Sean McDermott said post-game, quote, "It will be a learning opportunity for him," being Keon Coleman. "It was an issue that dealt with being on time. He knows he's accountable to his teammates. We addressed it. We support him and move forward. I thought he played a good game tonight." The other thing about the Buffalo Bills offense, John, that I really love is not only is everybody eating, but everybody is involved in the play. You've got wide receivers going downfield blocking, tight ends going downfield blocking, the offensive line blocking. It's not, and this is nothing against Stephon Diggs, but you watch highlights last year and you see guys like Stephon Diggs pulling up, maybe not going the extra mile to block to make sure that hole gets open and stays open. Or, oh, hey, James Cook turned a 4-yard rush into a 34-yard rush because, Mac Hollins held his edge or something like that. And you're like, wow, never would have expected a wide receiver to hold the edge like that. But, just making something up there. But again, that's what we're seeing. It's everyone is working together.
And that's how it should be. And that's the message that should be. Offense. Absolutely. That's the message that should be relayed and conveyed to all 32 teams, that everybody plays a part. And you may not be the one that gets all the touches all the time, but in the same, your position on the field is to ensure that the ball advances forward however you need to do it. And if that means you have to improv block, go block, make those blocks. And the Bills have done a really good job of doing that and embracing that. And a lot of the great teams with great cultures, hate to bring up the Patriots on a Bills podcast, but I'll bring up the Patriots during the Patriot Way era. Every one of those folks were doing that exact thing too. Everybody played a part in the puzzle that was moving the ball forward and scoring and winning the game.
It's I think a collection of a bunch of different things. Another thing being, again, mentioned this week, and we saw it on Monday Night Football. Excuse me, Joe Brady's offensive creativity is shining like a beam. Like a beam.
You could tell that McDermott gave him the paintbrush and an empty canvas and said, "Do your thing." And
there were back-to-back plays, John, where the Bills called the same exact play, did 2 different things, and were both successful. Right. It was like, I think it was a zone run.
Yeah.
Allen ended up running a bootleg to the right, got a big gain. They lined up the exact same way, called the exact same play, ran the ball, a zone run. And had a nice game. So again,
you had to believe Josh Allen provided quite the trash talk after that.
Well, and that's the thing too that was brought up as well that really makes you think, right? When the Bills don't have a run game, it's Josh Allen all the time.
Yes,
but the Bills have done a very good job, and I think the podcast was. Let me get this right really quick because I want to make sure that I don't. Give credit where it's due. Football 301. It's a Yahoo Sports podcast. I just started listening to it. Nate Tice, Matt Harmon, Charles McDonald. It's a very interesting listen because it kind of breaks things down, football things down even further, even for people like you and I, John, who eat, sleep, breathe football during football season. Made a very good point. The Bills are doing a very good job of staying ahead of the sticks. They don't have very many 3rd and 5+ or 2nd and long. But what's happening is you've got James Cook 1st and 2nd down. So you've got 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. 3rd and 3, whatever, if you get to that point. And then you've got to deal with Josh Allen. So it's like if the run does the job and gets the Bills in an advantageous spot, a plus spot for a 2nd or 3rd down, now it's Josh Allen time. So you've got to not only stop a run game that's effective, but now you've got to stop a quarterback who's really good at scheming a play to get a 1st down or to find the open man. And again, it's all about a lot of Josh Allen's interceptions. We've talked about it in the past, and knock on wood, no picks so far this season.
Sure.
It's about taking what the defense will give you, putting the ball in the hands of playmakers and letting them make plays.
Sure.
And that's exactly what this offense has done. And it seems, again,
unknown caller.
Sorry. My phone silence wasn't silent at all.
That's okay.
That was my bad.
That's okay.
Breaking down the wall, as you like to say, the soundboard flows through my phone. Maybe I'll start using my iPad. Maybe I'll start using my iPad.
I see what you're doing.
Like that.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, look at man. I didn't mention this at the start of the podcast. I'm running with a cold. It's like day 4 of a cold. I'm kind of slow, so like you'll hear me just like talking, and I'm just pausing mid sentence to think. Things just aren't working well today, but everyone is. I didn't want to miss this because again, this is like our little solace of we shit talk in the text messages. Chris Downey, our unpaid intern, helps us out in the text messages, sending stupid stuff over, and then we put the podcast together and have a good time. So I don't want to miss it. But again, continue what I was saying here. It's just all around fun football to watch. Spencer Brown, I want to mention this too. Right tackle per next gen stats. Did not allow a single pressure on 35 pass blocking snaps. His 3rd straight game without allowing a pressure this season. He's the only offensive lineman league-wide with at least 25 pass blocking snaps and 0 pressures allowed. Also, offensive lineman Tylen Grable, who played late in the game in cleanup time when it was, titty-kissing time, as Bills fans like to call it, when Mitch Trubisky...
Oh, yeah, when Money Mitch goes there.
Yeah, the human victory cigar came out. Grable suffered an abdominal injury versus Jacksonville, so he's out for the year. Offensive lineman Will Clapp signed from the practice squad to fill the open roster spot. Will Clapp recently of the San Diego Superchargers. I said San Diego because I wanted to say Superchargers, so I will put $1 in the jar for screwing that up. I've been taking Dayquil. My brain is, I'm starting to say terrible things and get myself in trouble.
Good. You know what you need? We need a commercial break is what we need.
Sounds good to me. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll come back with more Trust the Podcast right after this here on the Gear Radio Network.
Breathe, buddy.
And we're back here on Trust the Podcast. John, wrapping up the defense and special teams, a big moment on Monday Night Football. Damar Hamlin records his first career interception. It was a big deal, man. Highmark Stadium was going crazy. Damar Hamlin, the Bills players, coaches, staff, everyone on the sidelines was just going absolutely nuts. And here's the thing, though. Damar Hamlin was not the greatest option at safety prior to the season.
Sure.
Coaching has changed. Schemes have changed. And now his ability to be an effective safety in the National Football League has taken a complete 180. I know we always say this. We preface it with PFF, Pro Football Focus, is what it is. But when it comes to grading players, it's a nice little system. He has a grade of 63.8, which ranks 51st out of 121 safeties in the National Football League, which to me, average. Right now with the Buffalo Bills, Mike Edwards is out. Cole Bishop is a rookie. This is fantastic news for the Buffalo Bills, trying to replace Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Next person up, and he did what he was supposed to do and got his first career interception out of it. Good for him. It's a wonderful story, all things considering where, how he was unfortunately introduced to everybody. But the story that has come from then, and just not even the football stuff, but the person, Damar Hamlin as a person, just an incredibly good human being, and
the content was great. The content was great,
right? And this was well deserved for him. I'm glad he got this one, and I'm glad he can at least say even if it's just one interception at the end of his career, he got one. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there'll be more to come. These are the types of things for folks like that are favorites like that. You know, that's a building block. That's something to build off of. I see him doing great, continuing to do good things, and you know, those good things with consistency can become great things. So, it's really, really great on him for that.
Well, again, looking at it, I mean, it seems like it's allowing the Buffalo Bills to slowly but surely walk Mike Edwards and Cole Bishop into the lineup. I mean, Damar Hamlin has not given the Bills any reason to take him off the field.
No, not at all. You know, it's I don't want to say an embarrassment of riches, but it's certainly, you know, something that's like that. Like if you can take, even in a temporary relief, if you can take, you know, the cog or the whatever that's not working or isn't working very well off of the wheel, and you put something that can replace it, that can keep the ball rolling until you can get the expensive part to fully replace it or whatever. You do what you do to keep the machine moving, and that's what the Bills did.
I'm not saying that this is like a Wally Pipp situation, but it's happened before where guys get their opportunity and it's a clear-cut opportunity. And not to mention, this is not a one good game from Damar Hamlin. Since mini camps early this summer, Damar Hamlin has been playing his ass off and done a great job to, while yes, by process of elimination, Damar Hamlin got the job, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But find me a coach who did not say that Damar Hamlin earned that opportunity, even though two people were hurt. And he's been playing like it through 3 games. Because here's the thing. I say we're only through 3 games, John.
Mm-hmm.
It's an 18-week season. It's a 17-game season. So we are, after Sunday, for all intents and purposes, a quarter of the way through the season. That's for a guy who has not consistently played or consistently had success on field at the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Damar Hamlin is playing this well, and finding himself in positions to make plays like that, great. Love that.
It's great. Love it. It's good for him. It definitely reflects on the defensive scheming as well. The defensive coaching is doing very well and seeing things and plugging and playing and making things happen. And again, kind of like we said on the nucleus with the nucleus of the offense, the objective of every person on that field on the offense is they play a part, they play a role in advancing the ball forward for their team to score. On the defensive side, everybody plays a part too in making sure that the other team can't do that. And, you know, not to sound like a broken record again, but they are firing on all cylinders in all areas of the ball. And it really, really displayed itself on this past Monday.
It's
only onwards and upwards from here, especially if he's playing this good now. He's giving them no reason to rush any rash decisions, or somebody that may be on the IR for a bit, that may be coming back, maybe slowly getting the reps in. It offers them a lot of flexibility.
And that's what I'm trying to say. That's one thing that the Buffalo Bills have needed throughout the years of Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde getting hurt, being injured, ineffective, whatever the situation may be. I know injured and hurt are the same thing. Cut me some slack here for God's sake. But it's something the Bills have not had is very talented depth. And again, I'm about to do something ridiculous and refer to a future Hall of Famer as depth, but Buffalo had 5 total sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 8 passes defended, 9 quarterback hits. We know this was an absolute ass whooping on Monday Night Football. Yeah, but John, it's not. And I think I think what will end up happening is that when the Bills ultimately do lose a game, it will be that one person tries to do too much or is left to do too much. It's going to be a game where Josh Allen struggles and James Cook has to do everything, or Cook, the running game struggles, the offensive line struggles, so Josh has to do everything and maybe not be able. Because again, right now what we are seeing is a collection of small victories across the board. If you look at it like an office, How is your team at work successful? When everybody does their job, it then equates to a big victory. That's exactly what we're seeing here. The line does their job, so then the running back can do his job. So then the quarterback can do his job. So then the wide receiver. It's not just, well, Josh Allen threw for 500 yards so the Bills won the game. It's, well, Josh did what he needed to do. James Cook did what he needed to do. Von Miller had a sack. He did what he needed to do. Damar Hamlin did what he needed to do. And it all just adds up to a victory. So Von Miller, as mentioned, had a sack. He's improved his career total to 126 and a half, tying Hall of Fame defensive end Derek Thomas for 17th on the all-time sack list. Third time in his career he's recorded a sack in the first 3 games of the season. Also happened in 2016 and 2021. Per Pro Football Focus, Miller is third in the National Football League with pass rush productivity, trailing only Baltimore's Kyle Van Noy and Detroit's Aiden Hutchinson. Cornerback Jamarcus Ingram, again talking about depth. 2 tackles, both solo, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 pass defended, 1 quarterback hit, and 1 sack. First career sack for the undrafted free agent out of Buffalo. Pro Football Focus has Ingram at a grade of 74.1, which is 21st of 160 cornerbacks. He has
not
4
bad
passes
for an undrafted free agent.
The Brandon Beane is doing something right when it comes to those late round or undrafted players.
And you know what? Talking about depth, that's where you get that from. It are those later rounds in the draft. So for those that turn off the draft during the, after the second round, maybe the third round, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, arguably as important.
If you want to know why teams like Kansas City are able to sustain success for so long, go look at their draft history, look from the 4th round on and see how many players you recognize. That's the kind of stuff you have to hit on, and Buffalo has started to do that.
Yep.
He has 4 passes defended, which ties Ingram for 5th most in the league. Defensive end Casey Toohill, 2 tackles, 1 solo, 1 sack, a tackle for a loss, quarterback hit, and a fumble recovery. His first sack as a member of the Buffalo Bills. AJ Epinesa, 2 tackles, both solo, a sack, 2 quarterback hits, his first sack of the season. Defensive end Javon Solomon, 1 tackle, solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 quarterback hit. It was the first career sack for a 5th-round rookie out of Troy. Again, 5th-round rookie, getting a sack, making a play late in the game. You love to see it. Kicker Tyler Bass, 5 for 6 on extra points. Only miss was a proper block. 2 for 2 on field goals, 27-yard, 43-yard. A nice night for the confidence boosting. A nice night for a confidence boost for kicker Tyler Bass. But, John, we went a little long there. Let's go to Around the NFL. Jump right into it. Brought to you by our friends over at Go Frost Yourself.
Go Frost Yourself, located in Rochester, New York, does what other local bakeries do not. They bake from scratch, creating recipes themselves and using the best fresh ingredients they can find to create delicious flavors for customers daily. I almost feel like I need to read this in some other voice other than mine, because every time I read it normal, I jack it up somehow. I jack up the words somehow. But anyways, Molly and Jen. Hi, Molly. Hello, Jen. They've worked tirelessly to create what Go Frost Yourself has become today, and their passions can be tasted in the items that they bake. When you find yourself looking for an item for a special occasion, or maybe you want to try their incredible cinnamon rolls, or shout out to my buddy Mad Dog Bobby Rogers if you want to say what's up to him, go ahead. If you are local, visit Go Frost Yourself storefront at 2544 Ridgeway Avenue or gofrostyourself.com. Back to you, Ryan.
Our week 3 wrap up. Green Bay defeats Tennessee 30-14. John, oh boy, do we love a good revenge game.
Love it.
Green Bay quarterback Malik Willis, 13 of 19, 202 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown with 6 carries for 73 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. If you may have forgotten, Malik Willis, drafted in the 3rd round, 86th overall by Tennessee in 2022. He was traded to Green Bay on August 26, 2024 for a 7th-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Good on you, Malik Willis. And
I will say this, I'm the way he approached how the media, because the media loves their storylines, the revenge game, right? Oh, is he mad about this? And when he was asked about playing against Tennessee before the game, he was like, look, I'm grateful for my time there. I learned things there. Now I'm here, and I'm going to apply what I learned to here in hopes to win the game. Like, he handled that the best possible way you could. And
I'm going to apply what I learned to whooping that ass.
Yeah, you know what? He did. And it was good enough. The 13 of 19, 202 passing yards, 1 TD, 6 carries, 73 rushing yards, 1 TD that you so nicely wrote out there for me to spit out. I mean, can't really do a whole lot more than that. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and you're cutting out really bad all of a sudden.
Now am I good now?
I got you back. I don't know what happened there. That was the robots were taking over.
Damn AI.
Hey,
anyways,
Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Seattle all moved to 3-0. Real quick, John, who is a contender? Who is a pretender? Minnesota quarterback Sam Darnold, 13th in the NFL with 657 passing yards. First in the NFL with 8 passing touchdowns, 5th in the league with his 73.5 QBR. Oh, also, don't forget, speaking of Green Bay, their running back cast-off Aaron Jones, 9th in the league with 325 all-purpose yards. Pittsburgh, quarterback Justin Fields, 6th best, 73.3% completion percentage. I know that's saying the same thing twice, but shut up. Defense, not you, John. Everyone else can shut up. The defense has allowed an NFL best 26 points in 3 games in Seattle, scoring 24.3 points per game. They've allowed the 3rd best 473 passing yards and allowed a 4th best 43 points in 3 games. So, John, gun to your head. Gun to your head. Who's a contender? Who's a pretender?
I'm going to say Seattle's a contender. They always play well. They always play hard football in there. And Geno Smith, former Jets quarterback Geno Smith, right? Man who was written for dead, Geno Smith, right? He's doing a pretty good job since becoming QB1 there over the last couple seasons. I say Seattle's a contender based on who they're playing. Pittsburgh is a contender, but purely because of Mike Tomlin. It's not because of Justin Fields. It's great. It's a great story. Justin Fields inevitably is going to be the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers until he screws up or something, or Russell Wilson feels better and they go back to him. I'm not sure, but I'm not convinced that Justin Fields is the reason why Pittsburgh's doing well, but I am convinced that it is Mike Tomlin and in particular that defense. So I'll label Pittsburgh a contender, a wild card contender. Minnesota is where I'm not where I'm on the fence with, because again, when Sam Darnold was in a very fast start, a very hot start, his first, I think his only season in Carolina. And everybody was saying, wow, the Jets could really use a quarterback like him. And, whatever. And then it started to fall apart. And so I've known the Minnesota Vikings to, when they have a system, it's very consistent and it's very fluid, and they could pretend or they could contend. I don't think there's anything historically with Minnesota that has led me to look at them and say, except for maybe during the Favre years, oh yeah, that's a contender right away. You could see that. I'm not seeing that now. It helps Sam Darnold that he has a Justin Jefferson. He didn't have a Justin Jefferson in New York. He didn't have a Justin Jefferson in Carolina. He had Deebo Samuel in San Francisco, but he never played because Brock Purdy was there. So it helps to have that. Maybe that's what's needed for him. Before I can label Minnesota anything, I need to see more than just 3 games, because it's kind of on brand for Sam Darnold to kind of start off a bit hot and then taper off. And when he tapers off, he tapers off. So,
I think Minnesota, in my opinion, is a contender for a few reasons. First one, John, Kevin O'Connell, quarterback whisperer. He is able to get the most out of that position, and I think that marriage is fantastic for Minnesota. Aaron Jones, that's great. A healthy Justin Jefferson, that's great. They're getting a superb tight end in TJ Hawkinson back, probably mid-season-ish. So again, they'll probably lose some games. It's a very tough division, but if you're even a decent team we've seen in the National Football League in recent years, it's almost impossible. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to miss the playoffs if you have a halfway decent team. Starting off 3-0 should put them in a good spot. I think with Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin is why they're a contender.
Yes.
Their defense is fantastic. But as we talked about with the Bills before, everybody doing their job, they put a lot on the defense, I feel like. So at the end of the day, you say the defense needs to do their job. Justin Fields has been doing great to manage games. Don't get me wrong there. But at the end of the day, you're putting a lot of pressure on that defense. I don't know if it's going to be able to last. Seattle, they are Baltimore of the West, and that's exactly why the Baltimore, or why the Seattle Seahawks hired the coach that they did in Mike McDonald. I mean, yes, looking at their games, they had a close one against Denver. They beat the Patriots in overtime, and they beat the Dolphins in Skylar Thompson 24-3. So again, they've got some tough matchups coming up that will really show who they are. The Lions on Monday Night Football. They've got the 49ers October 10th. They've got the Falcons with Kirk Cousins in that offense on the 20th. They've got the Bills on the 27th, the Rams. So again, it's starting to get a little more difficult for them. But
sure.
You start a season hot, you roll downhill. Starting a season not hot and having to dig yourself out of a hole. Good transition there, John. Cincinnati, the Bengals, they love to start seasons slow. I don't understand why. They have a decent team.
Yeah. But they do on paper have a very decent team. You're absolutely right. I can't explain this at all.
Someone on Twitter, and I'm sorry I didn't grab the name, I apologize, but someone on Twitter made a very good point. They said the Cincinnati Bengals offseason looks like they said a healthy Joe Burrow is the answer to our problems, and it turns out that's not the case. Washington wins 38-33. We'll talk about Jaden Daniels on a different podcast because we're running out of time here, but he looks fantastic. The Bengals don't look fantastic. They fall to 0-3, John. The third straight year the Bengals have started at least 0-2. It's their worst start to a season since 2019 when they started 0-11. Per NFL.com, since 1990, of the 162 teams that started 0-3, 4 have made the postseason. That's 2.5% for those of you keeping track at home. 1 has won their division at 1.2%, and 0 of those teams have made the Super Bowl. Also, per NFL research, in the loss in which Lou Anarumo's defense got carved up, they made history, John. Not the type of history you want to make. Teams with 4+ touchdowns, 0 punts, and 0 turnovers in a game were 26-0 in the Super Bowl era. Heading into Monday, they are now 26-1. Also, the first game since 1940 with 0 combined punts and 0 combined turnovers. It was a banger of a game on Monday Night Football on the second half of the back end of the doubleheader. But dude, I'll tell you what, man, the Bengals, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they've got a good team. They've got a good team. They just can't get out of their own way.
It's giving me Marvin Lewis vibes. You know, you remember when Marvin Lewis was the coach for the Bengals for as many years as he was. They had some good teams too, and they contended when they had Carson Palmer, and then again with Andy Dalton. They would kind of do this, you know, they would mirror. I don't know if it's just a Cincinnati Bengals thing or what, but they're really going to need to turn it around because, again, you know, 0-3, God forbid, 0-4 after the first quarter of the season. That's a real tough hill to climb.
And mind you, they finished 0-2 and 20. They started 0-2 and 21, went 10-7, lost in the Super Bowl. Last year, start 0-2. They finished 12-4. They lose in the AFC Championship game. In 23, 9-8.
All right. Well,
actually, I did not 21. The third straight year, so that would be 22, 23, 24. But still, you get the point. They start slow. They finish off strong. But again, at what point are they just going to start slow and finish slow? We'll find out. John, our look ahead. We're gonna land this plane real quick here. Week 4, Buffalo, Baltimore, Sunday Night Football, kickoffs at 8:20 p.m. Baltimore 1-2. I did not fix this stat here. They are 1-2. My face is unlocking my phone. In the AFC North. I'm talking like a broken robot so I can get over to the National Football League here. Standings, that's right. They are tied for second with the Cleveland Browns, who are also 1-2. Pittsburgh 3-0, as mentioned. Last week, Baltimore did not have a loss. This is what happens. I try to edit the podcast throughout the week, and my brain is a foggy mess.
It's okay. All right.
They defeated the Dallas Cowboys 28-25. It was the Derrick Henry show. Stomping a mud hole in them Dallas Cowboys. Quarterback Lamar Jackson, 59 of 90 this season, 702 yards, 3 touches, 1 pick, with 35 carries for 254 yards and 1 touchdown. Fun stat here, John. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, they enter this week's game with the second most combined career rushing yards ever by an opposing quarterback at 9,208, behind Lamar Jackson versus Russell Wilson on December 4th, 2022. That was 9,254 rushing yards. Running back Derrick Henry, 56 carries, 281 yards with 4 touches and 2 receptions on 4 targets for 35 yards. Buffalo, Sean McDermott is 6-1 as head coach of the Bills. On Sunday Night Football. My body is breaking down here as I'm trying to talk fast. It's the third straight primetime game for the Bills, marking the second consecutive season Buffalo's played in primetime in 3 straight games. They are also the first team since the NFL merger to earn that distinction in consecutive seasons. John, ESPN matchup predictor says 56.7% of America believes Buffalo will come out victorious in this Sunday night matchup. Who you got?
I feel this will be a much stronger test for Buffalo because you can't sleep on a Lamar Jackson-led team. You can't sleep on a John Harbaugh-led team. So I'm not going to. I'm among the 56.7% that's going to believe that Buffalo's going to win in a close one. But this may be, of the 3 prior games, the one where I could see an upset happening and Baltimore pulling it out. My gut is telling me Buffalo is going to win this one at the end of the day, though there may be some struggles within just because Baltimore is who they are.
I've got the Buffalo Bills winning, mostly because the Buffalo Bills have not shown any reason why they could not beat the Baltimore Ravens so far this season. Yes,
right.
Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, Derrick Henry looks fantastic. But again, the Buffalo Bills are playing incredible football right now at the right time.
Right.
It's early in the season, but you want to get off to a hot start because, again, you want to make sure that you're not firing you're not firing the offensive coordinator midseason and Ken Dorsey and then trying to figure it out as you move along. Look at the Buffalo Bills are undefeated since Sean McDermott had to talk about the 9/11 speech and say that was not his intention, what he meant.
Undefeated in the regular season. That's
what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Undefeated in the regular season. I'm sticking with it. As
Sounds
always.
Good.
Let's just get Chris Berman on here. Let's let him talk.
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
I will not be here next week. It should be John and I think our unpaid intern Chris Downey, if I can line that up for them. Otherwise, I'm going to be in Florida, bro. I'm going to the Sunshine State to go hang out with the worst of the worst people, not my family, Floridians. Love my family very much. Our first vacation is a family of 4, so my hair's a little grayer than usual. Next time you see me, you'll probably be like, wow, did you age like Benjamin Button, bro? Because you look old as hell. But
very good.
As always, we got the Bills winning on Sunday. We love the Bills. We love Josh Allen. For John Cimino, I am Ryan Wolfe. As always, we are Trust the Podcast.
You're not.
Thank you for tuning in. We will catch you same time, same place next week. Maybe you'll get a special audio clip from me for the podcast from Florida. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But thank you for tuning in. As always, we'll catch you same time, same place next week. And as always, go Bills.
Ciao, ciao, everybody.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.